Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review, and today we have another Trumpeter kit, and this one I've built one of these kits before and I can tell you that this is an absolute beauty of a monster of a kit. So what are we doing the inbox review of today? We are doing the Trumpeter 1/32 F-14D Super Tomcat in 1/32 scale. And this thing is an absolute beauty. The first time I saw this kit, when I first got it, I opened up the box and I literally giggled like a little schoolgirl just looking at the detail on the top of the fuselage, which we're about ready to see here in a second. But going on with this aircraft, it does have a little bit of a special history with me. Back in 2006 when I was in the Navy on deployment, during the workups for deployment, I was able to see the Tomcat's last couple catapults and landings on the USS George Washington, and then also got to see the Super Hornets coming on board for the first time as well. So that was definitely a cool sight to see. I wish I had the pictures of it still, because that would be really cool, but I don't. Those were back on the old, the dollar disposable cameras, and I don't know where any of those pictures went, so sadly those have been lost over time. But going on with this kit, again, absolutely awesome box art going on the front. This is kind of like a suitcase box. It's so big it actually has a carrying handle on the top. And then on the sides right here we have two color schemes for it. We have the I can't really read those right now, but we have these two schemes right here, and then on the other side we have the bounty hunters on this side right here. We also have what looks to be a couple decal sheets and a photo etch fret as well on this. So I'm going to get the camera set up, moved around, and get everything set up so we can start going through this box. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the top box art, again, absolutely brilliant box art on the top, and it's cut to a shape where you could actually cut this out right here and hang it on the wall, because it's actually separate from the labeling and everything of the actual box. As you can see right here, they actually put the F-14D Super Tomcat on top of the picture, along with the label for Trumpeter as well. So going off to the side of the box, we have the F-14D VF2 Bounty Hunters from the USS Constellation CV-64 from 2003 right here. Again, nice decal option right there. And then we have on the other side, we have two more options, which is the from VF-213, the USS Carl Vinson right here. Again, a nice low scheme version. Got the Tomcat or whatever on the front right there, and then on the other side we have the VF-31 Cagbird USS Theodore Roosevelt right here. So again, very nice decal options for this one. I think I might be doing the Bounty Hunters one for this one, because it does have the bombing markings on the side right there. So I think that's the one that I'm going to be going with, because I just really do like that one. So, and also I think that was one of Connie's last deployments right there. So I'm going to get this box opened up, get the plastic all separated, everything, and then we can start going through the instructions, decals, and then we'll ramp into the plastic. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back and we are starting off with the instructions. As usual, we have the Trumpeter landscape format for the instructions with the typical writing on the front. This is also kit number 03203 right here. And then we open it up again. We have our sprue callouts through here. There are a lot of sprues in this kit. And then we have our decals. We have some metal undercarriage right here. It looks like we also have the option of having the landing gear in the tall or the crouched position as well. So that's a really nice touch. The Tomcat really looks good when it's in the crouch position on the catapult. So flipping over to the next page, we're actually starting on with the kit, getting our ejection seats done, and then we have the cockpit tub, adding a bunch of little detail parts with panels and such to go in there. Then we're adding the rear bulkhead for the front pilot right here, and then our control sticks for the pilot and the Rio up here. Then we also have our instrument combings for the front and back as well, and then we have another piece to go on, and also our sidewalls for this cockpit as well. So going on, adding in our ejection seats and our instrument combing with our HUD right there. Then after that's all done, we are working on our engines, getting our engines all assembled. Looks like full-length engines, nicely detailed on them. Too bad you won't be able to see it when it's really in the kit anymore, unless you really want to open up some panels on that. After that's done, we're working on our nose landing gear. Like I said, we have the option of having it in the extended or in the crouched position right here. And you can see we also work on our left and right main landing gear as well. Getting that all assembled, then we have our nose radar right in here. After that's all done, we're adding in our refueling probe onto the side of the fuselage. Then we're working on our nose landing gear bay. It does look like we need to add that during this portion of the build, but if I recall correctly, you can kind of slip it in sideways and get it to work that way. After that's all done, we are getting our nose radar, our nose landing gear, and our cockpit all into the fuselage and getting that closed up, and we also have some panels for the boarding steps as well. Then up next we have our Gatling gun along with a ammo can right here, getting all that in. This is a good place to add your weight for the kit as well, to help prevent it from becoming a tail sitter. That's one nice little place to add it in. You can also add it in the nose if you're going to have it closed up, and then also right behind here as well. So after that's done, we are working on our main landing gear wells, getting those attached, and then our main landing gear doors, and also our gun bay doors as well. And then we have the sensor to go on the front of the Tomcat also. After that, we're moving on to the upper fuselage. We have to make a few holes in here for the pylons, and also down here along the belly for some pylons as well. Then also we're working on our vertical stabilizers, and then we are adding in our intakes on these. There are a few issues with these. I do know I have the X-Acto models intakes, which are absolutely gorgeous. They do take a little bit of work to get in, but when they're all done, they are absolutely gorgeous, and worth the money if you can find them. Alright, so moving on with the kit, we're adding in our engines along with our exhaust right here, and then also our front intake bays, and also our main landing gear wells as well. After that is all done, we are getting the upper and lower fuselage put together, and then we are adding in a couple of panels or vents right in here along with our wing glove system. I'm thinking that might be rubber as well. So, and then the part of our exhaust cans going on. So up next we have our wings, getting those all assembled. Look, our flaps and slats are positionable on this kit, getting our left and right wing done. And then we are getting those attached into the fuselage right in here. You will be able to have them, you will be able to sweep them back and forward with the way that this piston system is on the model. After that, we're getting our exhaust on. We have the option of having the open or closed exhaust right in here, as you can see. After that, we're getting our tail hook on, and then a few nav lights, and then also a couple of our landing gear doors, and also our horizontal stabilizers and elevators right there. We do have the option of having this in flight, as you can see with the landing gear doors, having those put in at this point right here, then adding in more landing gear doors as well. After that's done, we are adding in our AOA tubes and sensors right here, and then we have our boarding ladder as well. And then after that, we're getting the forward fuselage section attached to the aft fuselage section, and then we have a belly pan right here, which also needs to have a couple holes added in. And then moving forward, we're working on our canopy section. We have a couple pieces to add to that to really liven that up. And then also with our front canopy section, we have a couple of instruments to add to the top of that, and getting that in right there, along with our boarding ladder in the open or closed position as well. After that's all done, we're adding in our belly turrets, or our belly pylons right in here, and also our wing pylons going on there. And then we're starting off with our ordnance. So we have the lightning pod, we have a couple fuel tanks, AMRAAM, or the M120s, the AIM-7s, Sidewinders, the training missile right here, and then our Phoenix missile right here. Then after that's all done, we are looking at the loadout for this kit. Looks like it's only an air-to-air configuration. I might look into doing this with the air-to-ground configuration on this. So again, very nicely starts with the decals, or the instructions. Alright, up next we have our color callouts. Again, Trumpeter, very large printout for the color schemes. You have your top and bottom profiles, and then your side profiles right in here. Again, awesome work. Definitely thinking I'm going to go with the bounty hunters on this one, just because of bomb markings, and you get that flag work faded into the panel lines. It really looks freaking good when it's all done. And then we flip over to the other side. We have the other low-vis model right here. Typically I would go for low-vis, but that bounty hunter one is just grabbing my attention right there. Then we have the decal placements and color schemes for all of our air-to-air missiles as well. Alright, up next we have our decal sheets. We have two large decal sheets. Looking at these, we got our Tom Hatters. Tomcat really does look good on that for the Tomcatters, sorry. And then yeah, just all the other decals do look very nice. You have your yellow flash for your vertical stabilizers right there, and then your bounty hunters last cruise as well. Again, really nice decal work with that skull, and that all the spelling seems to be correct from what I can see on there. And then our bomb markings and everything are very nice on that. So again, really looking forward to this decal scheme. Okay, and up next we have some more decals, mainly with our walkway decals, some other decals for our vertical stabilizers, and then the front nose art for the other one, and our low-vis decal scheme right here for our stencils. Again, really nice decals, especially for our weapons. They do look fairly nice as well. But again, I'll be using the aftermarket Ordnance for this kit. Alright, so now we're moving on to the upper fuselage, and as you can see, the detail, rivet detail on here, panel line detail, everything absolutely superb on here. And this is why, like, the first time I opened this up and just saw the pure size of this kit and all the detail on here, absolutely mind-blowing. And compared to the Tamiya kit that all has raised panel lines and everything, this one is just a step above. The panel lines and rivet detail, all absolutely top-notch through here. As you can see, absolutely gorgeous on that. And you have some detail inside your air brakes right here, and then on the inside you really don't have to worry about any of this because you're not going to see any of it. Alright, and then on the underside, same deal. We have some nice panel lines going through here. You're really not going to be able to see much of this when it's all built up, because you have all the pylons and everything going all over the place on this. Really, the underside is really not too big of a deal, but there is some nice detail in here. I'm wondering how the kit intakes fit on this. I do know there are a few errors on the kit intakes as well. Alright, moving on to our first weapon sprue or ordnance pylon sprue right here. We have some very nice panel line detail on this pylon right in here, as you can see, and then all the other pylons do look very nice on here. There is, I think, a little bit of a shape issue on these, but I'm not 100% sure. I do know that X-Acto Models does have a correction set for this as well. So again, very nice detail on that straight out of the box. And it definitely looks like a Tomcat when it's all built. Okay, up next we have the rubber for our wing gloves right here. Again, they're rubber, and the actual part on the real plane is rubber, but you'll just have to weather these up and they should be fine. Alright, on to one of our next sprues. We have some nice detail along all these parts right here. Your gear doors. Gear door could be a little bit better with the vent on here, but I mean, you can kind of sand that out, cut it out, and then put some screen behind it, and that should work and look fine, or use the photo etch ones instead. But everything else on this side of it looks nice. Let's flip it over, take a look. So no ejection pin marks on your speed brakes right here so far. Everything else does look nice. No ejection pin marks on the inside of any of these hatches. So for I spoke too early. We do have a couple ejector pin marks on the front landing gear doors right here. They're shallow. They should be easy to sand out on that, so it shouldn't be much of an issue, as you can see right there. Everything else on here does look rather nice, and no worries about ejector pin marks for the most part on areas that you're going to be able to see. These AOA and pitot tubes do look actually very nice, very thin on these, so nice work on those. Then we have starting off with some of our cockpit detail on here. Getting some nice cabling detail on the back bulkhead of the pilot section. And then just moving along, we have some nice circuit breaker panels right in there for your Rio. Then a couple of nice little switch details on that. On the instrument combing, it does look like it's kind of a fabric detail on there, but there's not much other detail to it. And then our railings for our canopy, also pretty nice as well. I'm moving right along. We got another couple parts. You have some detail right in here on this piece with your circuit breakers, and then some more of the sidewalls right through there. Again, pretty nice on the detail. I'm not seeing ejector pin marks on any place that would be an issue on this so far. Alright, up next we have our landing gear wells and some of our landing gear detail on here. Some nice cabling detail on here, molded in, and then the rest of the bays do look fairly nice. I'm not seeing any issues with any of the landing gear, and we're also going to have metal core inside of here that's really going to help strengthen these up. So I'm really not seeing any issues with any of the landing gear so far. This wheel hub does look a little bit basic, but it's on the inside, so you're really not going to see much of it. And then you can see all the detail that's inside of the landing gear well as well for the main landing gear. Some nice detail on that. And then we flip it over to the other side. No real issues with any of this because you're not going to be able to see any of it. So I'm really not worried about any of this having ejector pin marks on it. Alright, moving on, we have more landing gear. We have our nose landing gear. Like I said, we can have this in the crouched or in the extended version. As we can see here, nice and short with the actual launch bar in the lowered position as well. Our wheel hubs, they look alright. You can see the nut on the top of it, so again, some nice detail on that. Just moving around, our gear doors also look very nice. Our nose landing gear, well, has some nice cable detail in there, along with some boxes going on for molded in and injection molding, these are actually pretty nice. Now resin and 3D printed is going to be a lot better, but for injection molding, these are actually very, very nice. So we flip it over to the other side for our gear doors. Alright, so we have the gear doors right here. These are for the open position, and we don't have any ejector pin marks on those. Then we have the closed ones, but we do have ejector pin marks, but they are closed, so you're not going to see them. And again, the same thing with these, with the open and closed. We don't have to worry about any ejector pin marks on any of those. So very nice job on the ejector pin placement. I'm not seeing flash or anything that would worry me on this kit. Alright, so up next we have our cockpit tub, and looking at the cockpit tub, the detail on here is absolutely very, very nice. Now the throttle quadrant and some of the other detail on here, like I said, with the resin stuff or the 3D printed stuff, it's going to be a lot better. But for injection molding, this is actually very, very nice. It's almost on the verge of you don't really need it, but still, like, depending on how detailed you want to go in this, is whether you're going to use this kit. And this, like I said, this is a great starting out point for this kit for the cockpit tub. It looks very, very nice. You're going to have switch panels that go up on the forward right here, and then also your sidewalls. The actual circuit breaker panels are very nicely molded as well on that. So we flip it over for our instrument panels, and again, our instrument panels look very nice as well. Some nice work on those. Some nice switch detail, dial detail. I think there's some decals that go in here to help liven that up. If not, you can get some dials from Anyz, ANYZ.com, and that really helps out too. The radar panel has some nice raised detail on it, and you're also going to have some photo etch bits that go in there. The instrument combings, alright, they look really nice, but again, the resin stuff just looks better, but this stuff does look very nice for injection molding. It's very nice. Alright, and then moving on, we have our flaps detail, and not much to it. We have a little bit of panel line detail right in here, as you can see, but other than that, there's not much to these. And then on the reverse side, for our slats, we do have ejection pin marks that are fairly deep on these. So if you're going to have it in the raised position for your slats, like you're doing it in a landing configuration, or they're wiping out the controls on the catapult, you're definitely going to have to take care of these. But other than that, I mean, they look alright. And then that should be fairly easy to sand out, because it is on a nice flat surface for that. So again, no issues with any of those. And then moving on to our next sprue, we have our slat detail, our slat detail, and again, some nice panel line and rivet detail on here. I'm hoping that you guys can see that on the camera. And then we do have some mold release on these pieces, so definitely going to need to give this a wipe down or a wash before we start building it, to get rid of that oil and grease from the mold release. But everything else on here does look very nice. We have the actuators for our wing sweep, so you're going to put these two pieces together, and then this one fits in there, and it works like an actual piston. So very nice on that, and no worries about anything on the inside. We do have a couple ejector pin marks on the inside of the slats, but you're not going to be able to see it, so no worries there. Alright, standard trumpeter, we have a box inside a box, and this one has our photo etch. Looks like our mirrors, also some seat belts to go on here. They look fairly decent. There are, actually the photo etch is actually pretty thin. comparatively speaking. But yeah, so we have some nice photo etch right there. Then we have a couple sprues of clear, so our nav lights and everything right here. This is for the tarps pod that I don't think is included in this kit, but we'll have to check and see. But again, some nice sensor detail on there. I don't know what that piece is for, but the nav lights look nice. And then we have our screen for our HUD. Again, nice and clear on that. And get that painted with some clear green. It's really going to look nice. Alright, so up next we have our main canopy glass, and the front canopy, absolutely crystal clear, no issues with any of that. Looks absolutely awesome. We do have a seam that goes right up to the clear part right here, but it stops, so that is very nice and easy to take care of. And then on the main canopy, alright, so we do have the seam line that goes all the way down the top ridge of the canopy, but that is fairly easy to take care of. Right here is actually supposed to be in it, and then the rest of it we're just going to need to take care of. So just be careful when you're sanding that down. But the plastic on here absolutely looks like glass. I mean, that is nice and crystal clear on there, except for the frosted part, which you're going to be painting anyways. Alright, so moving on to our intake. Alright, so we have some absolutely gorgeous rivet detail on here from this side. Then we flip it over to the other side. Again, gorgeous rivet detail all the way through here and on the bottom as well. And we do have a little bit of a mold seam going right through here around the curve from when they're molding it, which is kind of expected with these complex shapes. But again, should be a light sand to take care of it, and no issues with that. Now, the issue with this kit was the very lip of the intake is very blocked off, as you can see. And on the actual thing, it comes out to a point, and it's almost, it's not razor sharp, but it is very pointed on the front. So that is one of the issues with the intakes right there. And then on the inside, alright, so we have a couple of large ejector pin marks right here, but they are very shallow and should be relatively easy to sand out with some putty work right there, especially how they're in that nice flat part. Definitely should not be an issue on that. So again, some nice panel or rivet detail and some nice panel lines on here. But again, that front lip right here and all along the side is just too blocked off on that. They should have kind of narrowed it out on the leading edge. Alright, up next we got some rubber tires. Tread details alright on them, and then we have our no sidewall detail on them at all, as you can even see through the plastic. Again, no detail. And then the tread detail, like I said, it's okay. But definitely, as you may know, if you've followed the channel for a little bit, I am definitely not a fan of rubber wheels. Okay, another thing that's kind of disheartening about this kit is the way it looked on the boxes that we'd have metal inserts, right? And we have plastic inserts inside the landing gear instead of the metal. So kind of iffed about that. But I mean, I'm hoping with the combination of the outer shell and then this, maybe they'll add some strength. If not, definitely getting some aftermarket landing gear for this. Alright, up next we have our ejection seat sprue. The sidewall detail of these ejection seats are actually very nice on here, as you can see. And then you have a few parts that are going to go on. On this side you have your seat pan right here, and then the backrest with your headrest right here, and then the cushion that goes on top of the seat pan added on top of that, and then a few other detail parts into the ejection seat. So this should build up to be a very nice out of the box ejection seat, especially with the photo etch seat belts that come with the kit as well. Alright, moving on to our nose cone. Again, nicely shaped. Do have a little bit of flash right on the tip of the nose right here. Shouldn't be, it's not bad to take care of. And then on the inside there's no detail to it, which is kind of odd. If you want to have the cone open, you'd want to have a little bit of detail in there, but just have to cut off these sprue gates right here. But again, nicely shaped. We do have a seam line going down the middle here, but it's very faint and it should be rather easy to sand off and take care of on that. Alright, moving on to our next sprue, we have our landing gear doors in the open or closed position right here for our nose landing gear. As you can see, nice detail on that, and then our gun hatches as well with that. And then moving right along, our beaver tail on this piece, and then the start of our burner cans on here. Now these were almost like a carbon fiber type thing on the back end of here at the very end. So if you can find some carbon fiber decals, that's going to make it look really, really nice. But other than that, on the inside, no ejection pin marks on this door right here that you're going to have open. And again, on these gun bay doors, no ejection pin marks on those either. So very nice work on those. Alright, up next we have our AIM 7s. Again, fairly nice detail, especially for out of the box. Just a couple panel lines going on, and then our fins. Our fins do look... So the front fins look nice and pretty much knife edge on the front fins. Now on the rear fins, they are blocked off. As you can see, they're squared off on that. So that's definitely an issue with those. We get two of these sprues right here. Alright, up next we have another Ordnance sprue. This is our ECM pod. ECM pod does look actually fairly nice on here with the rivet detail on that. And then we have our CATM missile, the training missile right here. And then a few other pieces. This is for our lantern pod right here, the seeker head to that. And then we have the actual lantern right here on that. So let me get it in the camera. But the rivet detail on here, fairly nice for out of the box. Again, very nice. On the vent for your lantern pod, it is nice and kind of hollowed out, so you do have that vent look right in there. Everything else pretty nice. Alright, up next we have another double sprue. Alright, we have our pylons. Looks like these are the wing pylons right in here. As you can see, some decent rivet and panel line detail to it. Again, pretty nice. And then you have your bomb racks if you're doing a bombcat right in here, and then your fuel tanks as well. Fuel tanks do have some nice panel line and rivet detail as well on that. So alright, up next we have our AIM 54 sprues, the Phoenix. We get two of these, and again, panel line rivet detail is okay, especially for out of the box. They're okay. The fins are a little bit thick. As you can see, these are squared off on the edges, so you do have that issue on that, but for out of the box they do look okay. Alright, up next we have another double sprue with our wings. We have upper and lower on each fuselage or each sprue, and again, nice panel line and rivet detail where it's needed. It's not over riveted like some of the Trumpeter kits are. So again, very nice on that right there. As you can see, nice formation lights molded in too. So alright, up next we have our sidewinders. We get two of these sprues. Sidewinders do look fairly nice. There is a little bit of flash on it, but not too bad. They are, looks like they're one piece, except for these fins right here that you have to add in. And everything else on here does look very nice. You even have the detail back here with the, I think they're called gyro stabling gyro stabilizers or something like that. But again, very nice on the detail on the Sidewinder. This is actually probably one of the most detailed parts on the entire kit so far. Alright, up next we have our AIM 120s. Now, I might be wrong, but I am pretty sure that the Tomcat only carried the AIM 7s. I don't think they ever carried the AIM 120s. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure that they never carried the AIM 120s. They always carried the AIM 9, the AIM 7, and the AIM 54. So the Sidewinder, the Sparrow, and the Phoenix. So we'll have to take a look. But for out of the box, again, nicely detailed. The fins are a little bit thinner. They're almost not blocked off, if that makes sense. They're almost knife edge on the leading edge and the trailing edge of the fins right here. So decent work on those. You have your piece that goes along this right here. It will slip right into here. Then you also have the pylon extender, I guess, for this. But again, I'm pretty sure that the Tomcat never really carried the AIM 120. Alright, up next we have a sprue for our intakes. We have our intake doors right here. Again, nice and smooth on those. Not going to see this side of the intakes, but right here we have the other intake doors. Again, nice and smooth. We flip it over to the other side. This portion you're really not going to be able to see, so I'm not worried about the ejector pin marks on that. We do have a few shallow ejector pin marks on these sprues right here. As you can see, they are very shallow, so they should be fairly easy to sand out, especially if you do it while they're separated and before you glue them all together. You should have no issue with removing those ejector pin marks. So there's that, and then you have your lower speed brakes right here, which do have 3 ejector pin marks. Again, it's a nice flat surface, so it shouldn't really be an issue to sand those out either, as long as you put a good amount of putty in there and then sand it down. Alright, then moving on, we have our elevators and our vertical stabilizers right here. Again, nice panel line and rivet detail. We do have a little bit of a webbing from where the different plastic come in at a different direction, and it just cools at a different rate, so you get that webbing effect. It's no issue. You're not going to be able to see any of it when it's painted up. It's just when the plastic is like this, you'll be able to see it. So no issues with that. Don't worry about that when you see it. But other than that, all the other detail on your vertical stabilizers look alright. I can't tell if that's a scuff or some oil. Alright, yeah, it wipes off. Must be some mold release right there. So just hit it with a Dawn dish soap water bath before you start building it. Alright, moving on. Now we have our front fuselage section, and as you can see, the rivet detail on this is absolutely gorgeous going through here. Just absolutely top notch all the way around. No issues with any of this stuff. And then inside our gun bay and everything, we do have a decent amount of detail in there. Then inside our boarding ladder compartment, we do have a little bit of detail in there. You'll be able to see a little bit of it, but not much of it. And then we also have some electronics boxes back in here as well. So, and then with the part that goes on the wings, now these are a little bit thick. I think they should be a little bit thinner, but we'll have to check on that. They do look okay. And then your belly section right here, again, nice panel line and rivet detail on that. This is where they would put the Sparrows right here. Maybe they did carry AIM 120s, because this is about the length of a 120 right there. So maybe this was converted to carry 120s and I was wrong. Don't know. I've been wrong before. But moving on with our engine covers, nicely panel lines and rivets. We do have that seam line that goes down the middle, the mold seam line right here. I'm hoping the camera will pick it up. Again, very light, easy to sand down, and shouldn't cause you any issues with that. Now we flip it over to the other side. Really don't worry about any of this because you're going to have the sidewalls in the cockpit and everything, cover all that up. You might need to sand like this one down. This one is a little bit raised, so just so you don't have any fit issues, you might want to take care of that one. And it's the same thing. Nope, it's not the same thing on the other side. So you just have that one slightly raised ejector pin mark that you'll want to clean up just to make sure you don't have any fit issues when you're attaching your cockpit and the nose gear bay. Alright, this is our last sprue, and these are our engine sprues. We get 2 of these. The engine detail, from what I can see right here, very nice on the engine body. We're going to have a couple other panels like right in here that go around and close this all up. Then we have our fan blade detail for our exhaust right here. Just nice detail on that. And then the intake, we have another fan thing that goes on the other side. We'll see it when we flip it over. But moving right along, the intake or the exhaust, they look okay. They're a little bit rudimentary, a little bit basic on right here, and you're gonna see it, especially if you have the exhaust opened up. You're gonna be able to see this section right here. So yeah, you have that. Then you have your exhaust pedals right here. See a little bit of flash on them, but shouldn't be too difficult to clean up on that. And then we have the closed exhaust. Closed exhaust feels alright. It does have that raised like overlap on it, so that's nice. But we'll have to see what it looks like on the other side on that. So we flip it over. Alright, and we do have some nice interior exhaust detail on here. Just moving right through all these pieces, so some nice interior exhaust detail. Should build up to be fairly decent. We do have the intake fan right here. Again, get that painted and weathered up. That's going to look really nice, and plus it's really far back, so it's really difficult to see it unless you like put a flashlight straight down there and you're bent over and you look at it straight down. It's really the only way you're going to be able to see it, and it's kind of the same way with the exhaust area as well. But for the burner cans, I would have to give them probably a 7 or 8 out of 10 for the detail on inside of here, right? On the outside, what you're going to be able to see in between of these sections right here is kind of, I would rate that a 5 out of 10. So definitely, I know ResKit and Edward both have exhaust sets for this, and those absolutely look amazing when they're all done. So definitely going to be getting those for this kit. Alright, so that does it for the Trumpeter 132nd F-14D Super Tomcat. I can say this kit looks absolutely amazing, and it looks like, I know from experience that when this thing builds up, it looks like an absolute beast. It's a blast to build. Just, I can't say enough good things about it. Now, are there some areas that need some touch up for the detail? Yes and no. Yes, if you want to go super detailed on it and you're kind of a very detail oriented person like myself. But no, because the detail on the kit is actually fairly decent for being out of the box injection molding stuff. Like the exhaust area, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I'm sure with a little bit of work, it actually looks amazing. The armament, yeah, definitely probably some aftermarket for that, for me at least. And then the cockpit looks really nice, especially for straight out of the box. Now if you want to go super detailed, get the Quinta Studios or Red Fox interiors, the 3D printed stuff, and that'll really liven that up. But other than that, I think the only like major downfall for the area is the intakes, on how the leading edges of the intakes. That's really the only major downfall that I can see from this kit, because everything else does look very nice. The landing gear, that's one of the most major disappointments I have, is just the way that they have the picture on the box with the thin core. You would think that that thin core would be a metal insert to it, but it's a plastic insert. So I'm hoping, but I'm not sure on the strength that that little plastic core, that doesn't seem like much. I was able to bend it with my 2 fingers rather easily. How that's going to do. Because I ended up using, I think I used 3D printed landing gear from 3D Shoot Expert or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember what I did with that, but yeah, so that's really all I have to say about this. When I build this one, again, I'm going to be doing the bounty hunters for this one, and I might be doing this one on a catapult or something. Don't know yet. We'll have to see, because I really do like the crouch down look on it. We'll have to see. But other than that, that's all I have to say about this kit. I hope you enjoyed this inbox review. Thank you for watching. I hope also if you're on the verge or you're on the fence about getting this kit, I hope it helped you make your decision with either way. So put down in the comments also if you built this kit, and let us know what you thought of it when you built it. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future content. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.